What did he do to her? What did he do to her? Stephan Stearns, this man from Central Florida. What did he do to Madeline Soto? The allegations are going to make you livid tonight. Combing through the 32, 34, 36 pages that were filed. This is maddening. It's worse than we thought. The more we learn, the worse it gets in this case. I want to start here. Madeline's 13th birthday. This is the photo. The birthday party on the 25th. The day before she goes missing, and I believe the day before she is murdered. Or maybe it was later this night, I don't know. But she was born on February 22nd, 2011. Okay? She was just 13. Just turned 13. So the question is, and this is what I've been wondering, what did he do to her? How long was he doing this? And there's a lot of ambiguity surrounding the circumstances and the relationship of Madeline's mother and this man. What was he? What was he to her? And how long was he there? What was he doing? Well, Shannon Butler from WFTV, investigative reporter down in Orlando. Years ago when I worked at Orlando, I worked with her. Incredible reporter. They're digging up everything they can. She was on the show giving us a few more details about the background of when Stephan Stearns enters the life of Madeline Soto.
We looked back at the Facebook posts, and we could trace Stephan Stearns, what appears to be in the life of Madeline and Jen Soto, at least 6 years. We've heard from different folks that maybe there was a period that maybe they had broken up and may not have been around. It depends on, what the friends have to say, but at least the posts that we could find on social media went back as far as 6 years.
6 years? She's only 13. She's only 13 now. You go back in time. So we went through these documents, and what I want to show you now, so you have an understanding of what we are talking about, the amount of times, and these are just the offenses that he allegedly recorded and documented and kept on his phone. 2019, this goes back to. 2019, she's 8 years old. Look at this. What did he do to her? What did he do to her? This is what he's documenting. This is what they believe they have proof of him doing to her. A lot of things I'm noticing about these dates. A lot of summer dates. June, July, August. Okay, I want to back it up a little bit now to remember what we know about this guy and what he told us about what was going on here. Because he spoke to WFTV, gave them an interview. At this point, it's a missing persons case. But still, let's watch and let's listen now in light of all these allegations that have been made about what he was doing to her. Let's watch.
I dropped her off. Everything looked fine when I drove away. So last time we saw her, she was asleep for most of the way. Told her have a good day at school when she got out, and I love her. She said, thanks, love you too. That was it. This is not normal behavior. She's not the type that would just run off. We don't know where she could be, and we're scared. We just wanted her home. I dropped her off early. I could have waited longer. She looked okay. She was walking towards the school when I saw her. It was like any other day, so I went on with my day. It's hard not to blame myself, but it just keeps coming in waves. Just the reality keeps hitting. And we don't know where she is. We don't know if she's safe. We're just scared. We just want her home. I even went out with the cops where I had dropped her off. And we looked all up and down the road, all along the communities, and there was nothing helpful. None of the cameras were pointing the street. Nothing, which in 2024 was surprising. The church across the street had some cameras, and they mentioned seeing her waiting around in the parking lot for a while before moving on, and that was it. But it was grainy footage and not much else. She had a happy weekend. She just turned 13. She had her 13th birthday party. She was happy that we were all together here, and she was just very happy. She was a happy kid. She's very sweet. She's a very sweet girl. She brings a lot of joy to us, and we just not knowing. It's like our whole world is upside down. Not feeling her presence here is... Sorry. It's hard.
Knowing all these allegations that are, again, a result of what they got off of his phone. And then you listen to that. Like, she was happy. She was not happy with you. She was not happy in that house. She's probably scared to death. Goes back to 2019. All these years, do you really think you dropped her off and she said, oh yeah, I love you too? No. Stop. Stop. Here's the question tonight, though. What changed? How did things change? If it's, 2019, 2022, 2023, now we're in 2024. What changed with this 13th birthday? That instead of a sex abuse case, we are now talking also about a murder investigation. Let me bring in my special guest joining us in Los Angeles, board-certified forensic psychiatrist, trial expert, witness, and columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Dr. Carol Lieberman, what should we be thinking about? What is the potential? Like, what changed here?
Well, the typical thing that changes when sexual abusers stop is a few different things. One, some have age preferences. Some get more turned on or more attracted to children of a certain age. So when they get to be older than that age, then there's not as much sexual attraction or fulfillment. Another reason is some men get scared when the girl starts menstruating because they don't like the possibility that they could. That's kind of shocking to them when, oh yes, wait a second, there's the possibility of her getting pregnant. And then, of course, as the older they get, the more there's the likelihood of them saying that they're going to tell someone, threatening to tell. Now, what I have found to be super interesting, chilling and ironic, but she had said there was a message on her phone where she said, once I turn 13, I want to go out into the woods, words to that effect. And of course, ironically, she was found in the woods, her body was found in the woods, but that is not what she had in mind. But what that does show is that she may have wanted to break free, and he may have gotten scared at that time.
Get out of that house of horrors that she was living in. Let me ask you this, from what's been, again, these are the ones that I believe have been documented on his phone, and that's how they've gotten these charges going back to 2019. But I look at the dates, it's June, it's July, it's August, summer months when school is not in session. I'm looking at the years of the alleged abuse, 2019, nothing in 2020. starts back up in 2022, 2023, into 2024. But that was COVID. Nobody's going to work. Nobody's going to work. Should we be reading anything into this? I mean, I'll tell you what my gut is telling me is that summer break, mom has to go to work. I don't think this guy works. Tried to get some work at Disney, not to make money. And then COVID, he can't be alone with her. Does this tell us anything about?
You mean because the mother would have been likely home?
Right,
during
remote.
COVID.
Nobody was going to work in
yes.
2020.
Right. Yes, of course, also that could have been the time when they broke up. That reporter was saying that they might have had a gap.
Okay. So what are your thoughts now? Because there's a murder investigation going on. Do you think at age 13, would a child feel like now I can fight back? I'm not a kid anymore. I'm a teenager. I'm going to fight back.
Yes, 13 is a very, it's a crucial age. It's a turning point for a lot of kids in a couple of different ways. First of all, in regard to their mother, girls and their mother, it's a time when girls start, wanting to branch out into the world, maybe start dating and so on. And when mother looks at the girl and sees that she may be it may be a time in her life when things are going down or, not as exciting at the very least. And she sees her daughter blooming. Now, I'm not talking about this family necessarily, but sort of in general. But also, yes, I'm a teenager. I should be able to break free. She said, I want to go in the woods. So what does that tell you? It really does tell you I want to get out of this situation. And I think she might have felt, in regard to him too, that it's time, it's time for me to tell you no more.
And let's talk, everyone's still talking about mom as well. What are your thoughts about mother-daughter relationship? This stuff is going back to the time that she's 8 years old. Would you expect an 8-year-old to tell mom what's happening? Would it be obvious to a mother that something is wrong if an 8-year-old is being sexually abused?
Well, it certainly should be obvious to the mother since he was living with them and so on. But there are reasons why mothers turn a blind eye. The one is that I was mentioning before about, when you want to hold on to the man and this is what you sacrifice. I'll sacrifice my daughter. I know you want to have sex with her. I mean, it's unconscious generally. And also, I was thinking if it turns out that he was selling his photographs and videos and so on as pornography, then and would have been making money from it, then perhaps the mother knew she was complicit. She wanted the money from what he was selling.
Wow, there's so much for investigators to uncover here. At this point, I just have to reiterate, no one has been charged with the murder. The mother has not been named as a suspect. He obviously is a suspect in all of this. He's being held with no bond on all of these charges. What would you make of the mother not cooperating? And I don't know if this is happening, but if she's not cooperating, like if she's not telling investigators everything she knows about her daughter's life inside the house, and about Stephan Stearns, who's been accused of doing this to her daughter, if she's not cooperating, would you read anything into that?
Yes, if she's not cooperating, then that means more likely that she did know at some level what was going on, and she was either complicit with it, for financial reasons, or to be able to keep him with her. The less she cooperates, the more it seems like not only that she's protecting him, but that she doesn't want the world to know that she went along with this.
All right, Dr. Carol Lieberman, great to get your insight tonight. It's always appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have a lot more to dive into in this story, folks. When we come back, they are here in studio. Randy Kessler, Molly Palmer, Daryl Cohen, our think tank. I've got some important legal questions for them, and we're going to talk about the investigation as well. Don't go anywhere.
Our detectives have determined that Madeline was never dropped off on the morning of February 26th near her school. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time and that Stephan Stearns moved her body in the early morning hours on that day. We have video evidence that shows Stephan Stearns discarding items in a dumpster in that apartment complex in Kissimmee at 7:35 on Monday, February 26. Detectives later recovered Madeline's backpack and her school-issued laptop from that dumpster. At 8:19, we have evidence that shows Stephan Stearns returning to the complex and Madeline was visible in that vehicle. We believe she was already dead at that time.
Welcome back. Despite all that evidence that he's laying out, still no murder charges in this case for Stephan Stearns. All the charges that he's facing now, 60 counts, are all sex abuse and child sex abuse on his phone that's recorded. Look at this massive, massive list. But I want to specifically look at one area of these charges, which are very significant, especially now in the state of Florida. Sexual battery on a child under 12, 8 counts of that, okay? Significant. The other counts are significant as well, but that's the most significant. Why? Because of a brand new law down in Florida, which went into effect on October 1st of 2023. A person 18 years of age or older, Stephan Stearns, who commits sexual battery upon or an attempt to commit sexual battery injures the sexual organs of a person less than 12 years of age commits a capital felony. It's now a potential death penalty for the sex crimes in Florida for someone under the age of 12, the victim. And you look, this goes back to 2019 now, right? Clearly under the age of 12. Going all the way to 2022, still under the age of 12 in 2022 in the summer. Now, here's the problem. The law went into effect in 2023. So is this a potential death penalty case just for the sex abuse charges? Let's bring in the think tank. Joining us live in studio tonight, criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen. Also with us tonight, criminal defense attorney and Emory University law professor, Molly Palmer. And finally, family law attorney and law professor at Emory University, Randy Kessler's with us. So it's Daryl and the professors tonight. Great to see everyone. Can you punish someone for conduct back in 2022 and 2019 with a law that was passed in 2023?
I would hope so, but the answer is no, and that's spelled N-O. Unfortunately, it's called ex post facto. No.
You don't think
He deserves nothing less and nothing more.
I understand what he deserves. I want to know what the law is
The
first.
law, in my view, no, because you cannot pass a law regarding something that took place before and prosecute.
Even if it's just the punishment?
So here's the issue. The law actually is unconstitutional because in 2008, there was a United States Supreme Court case, Louisiana versus Kennedy. It was a 5-4 decision wherein the court analyzed the interplay of the 8th Amendment, the prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment, compared to the 10th Amendment, the state's rights to legislate. And they said, if there's not a death or an intent to do death, kill somebody, then you cannot impose the death penalty. The fact that Florida has enacted this law is one thing. I mean, legislatures all the time enact unconstitutional laws. I do believe that this law will be found unconstitutional as it has been before. I also think this is going to be a murder case, and that then will make it a capital felony.
Right, that gets, so the sex crime's not going to do it. You agree, Professor Kessler?
Molly makes law professors look good, doesn't she? She's exactly right. So on 2 counts, he loses. The law is unconstitutional, and it's ex post facto. We get to use those fancy words we learned in law school. Can't declare something illegal after it's already happened and then convict somebody of it.
Okay, so on 2 different grounds, we're saying this might be a problem to try to get a death penalty from the sex crimes. Okay. Daryl, everyone's asking, why hasn't he been charged yet?
because at this point, at least in the state attorney's office eyes, they don't have enough evidence to where they're circling. Believe me, they're looking at DNA, they're looking at every piece of evidence they can possibly find, and when they have enough, because he's incarcerated, he can't go anywhere. All he can do is go get his meals, go to the cafeteria, maybe. They'll charge him, but they want to wait because they can wait. It's not as if he can disappear, flee the country, flee any place.
Well, a lot of people scratching their heads because, you know, in the initial press conference, they're saying, we believe her dead body's in his car.
Belief is not tantamount to proof.
Right, and I think in this case, it's strategically smart for the state to charge him with, 60 plus additional felonies for which he's facing life in prison, because people want to know. They want to know the specifics, and sometimes investigation doesn't get you there. So now you have leverage. You can sit with him and say, look, you're facing life either way. I haven't charged you with capital murder. Tell us what happened. And at that point, perhaps there are some unanswerable questions at this point that resolve all of these things we're wondering about.
Well, a lot of people also wondering about the mother, Randy.
Well, the mother. Well, first of all, the father. He might wish.
He's not the father.
Not the boyfriend.
Wait.
The stepfather.
She called him the stepfather. You're a family law guy, so you know better than all of us. But apparently, the mother referred to him as Madeline's stepfather. We don't know what Madeline called him because she's not with us.
I'm sure she called him
Predator.
I don't think they were. I don't think they were married, but there are rumors that maybe they did get married. I don't know.
But back to what I was saying, he probably would be wishing for the death penalty. You don't want to be in jail forever with the conviction of those crimes. So back to that, he might say, please give me the death penalty after this trial. But yes, the mother, you know, that's strange behavior. Why is she not out there telling the whole world everything she knows, talking to the cops, saying, I mean,
she might be. We don't know. We don't know where she is, by the way.
But remember, if she does, she may put herself in very deep yogurt.
Well, what kind of potential problems could mom have here?
I mean, the way that she behaved during the press conference, I thought was strange from the beginning, right? There's no tears with either of them. She said a few things that I found to be very, off-putting. So if she is complicit in terms of the murder, these charges also can serve as leverage against her. You know, a good lawyer can say.
What do you mean by complicit? What sort of action?
If she knows about the murder, but is not involved in the production of child sexual exploitative material or the sexual batteries, then now she can become a source of information to implicate him, who is seemingly more egregious in his behavior. If she has any involvement in the killing of her child, now those unanswerable questions can be answered through her, and he can be prosecuted.
What defines involvement? Where's the line between knowledge and involvement? Because a lot of people talk about this concept of turning a blind eye.
That's exactly what she may have done.
Well, it's also different when you're a parent. You have a duty to take care of a child, and child endangerment means you're responsible for a child. You got to protect the child. If it's your child and I know something's going on, that's different. Do I have a duty to intervene? Less so than if it's in my household. I've got to protect my child.
So does the knowledge get you to murder?
Yes, it
Parties
can.
to a crime, conspiracy.
Absolutely.
She may not have done anything other than see, feel, or hear what's going on, but clearly, in my view, she can be charged with and convicted of murder if the evidence is there that she knew what was going on.
Not doing anything physically to take the life, not doing anything to sexually abuse her own daughter, but knowing that it's going on and knowing that the murder took place can wrap her up in the actual murder charges?
Accessory after the fact, if she did anything in terms of trying to cover it up. And certainly deliberate ignorance is no defense. You don't get to turn a blind eye under the law. And the jury is often instructed on that very provision. So yes.
It might be an option for him. If he wants to lessen his sentence, he might say, Mom was holding the camera. Mom was involved. Mom knew about all this. You don't have anything on Mom. I'm going to give you, Mom, on a silver platter. Give me something in return. You never know what's going to happen.
Inactive participant, she can still be charged, she can still be convicted, and the two of them can play one another. Each can play one, and they can go down together.
All right, let's talk about something else that's a big part of this case. All of these images, hundreds of images, and they're all connected to the charges, right? The first 20 counts, there's images of all of them that he's being charged with. And How far do you think this investigation will go in terms of trying to figure out if there's connections to anyone else?
I mean, I wonder if the feds are going to get involved. If you actually have a production case, which I think has been hinted at, I mean, is this just possession of child sexual exploitative material, or is he producing it? I mean, those are typically cases that the FBI gets involved with, and then they start seeing, you know, like you said, how far did it go? How nefarious is this conduct? Is this being sold and disseminated on the World Wide Web? These are questions that I think the feds would like to answer, or perhaps it stays in Florida and maybe it is something that was limited to their home and you know, just the child and not being shared amongst other people on the internet.
Too bad the victim isn't here, right? That's the sad news. You're not going to ever hear testimony. You don't have any forensic interviews. It's all hindsight. It's all circumstantial. Sounds like they got a heck of a lot of circumstantial evidence to put him away, but Molly's right. If there are other players, other people that participated or benefited or profited.
Do you think there's more images somewhere?
Absolutely. It ain't over till it's over. There are more images somewhere, and they're not going to go away. Sort of reminds me of a case having to do in Fulton County. Nothing happened until it did, and the more it happens, the more expansive it becomes. If they find a person or persons who bought the porn, and they can prove him or her to have bought it, he or she can be also charged federally.
Is information like that something that his attorney would ask him about? Can it be used in some strange way as a bargaining chip, not just to go after mom, but let's say there is some connection to some larger ring here?
I mean, you don't have to ask him, because our technology, computer forensics, is so in depth that we're going to find out if there is more. Like, you know, didn't he say he reset his phone? I reset my phone. He made
the accidental factory
reset.
Accidental.
So, you know, people don't realize that there are all these files. If ever you've possessed them, deleting them or resetting your phone doesn't do anything. And so they're going to do a more thorough forensic imaging of all of these devices. And typically, somebody who engages in this behavior, one of the hallmarks of this conduct, usually, you know, you are a collector, right? If you are this type of person. And so, yes, there could be a lot more that remains to be seen.
And Vinny, yes, could he implicate somebody else to get a better benefit for himself? Yeah, not just who he sold it to. What if somebody was pulling his puppet strings and saying, listen, here's how you do it, here's what we want, here's what sells, and there's somebody bigger than him, a bigger fish that they can catch, then you're onto something. Then he's going to get a deal. He's going to get less than he would otherwise get.
Does he want a deal? As pointed out earlier.
Or does he want to live on death row because you're a little more protected?
Absolutely.
One final question, and a lot of people want to know this. Does he get to see those images again as an accused?
No, that's not how that works. So
he's not allowed to see it?
No, you cannot disseminate this type of discovery to your client. So what the attorney's responsibility...
What happens during the trial?
So the attorney has a responsibility to, you know, assess quantity of images, types of images, whether there's sadomasochism involved. And so you have to go to a controlled setting where a federal agent or an agent from the state shows you what's before.
And only show it to the lawyer. What if he wants to represent himself?
Wait a minute. If we have a trial, he is going to see each and every image
at trial. It will come out
by the state.
Not in discovery, at trial. A lot of people want to know that. All right, they're here the whole hour. Up next.
Richard Allen's attorneys are back on the case in the Delphi murder trial, but they have to face the judge themselves on contempt charges. What's going on in Indiana?
Baldwin, can you provide any comment?
Journalism. It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. The date your children are born, the date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28th, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen. This investigation is far from complete.
As Mr. Allen is now without counsel, I've ordered him transported back to the Department of Correction. Obviously, without counsel, Mr. Allen's hearing cannot proceed.
What's your reaction to the fact that his counsel withdrew and he wasn't even in court today?
Very disappointed. It doesn't seem to be much of a surprise.
I cannot believe this case, the way it's devolved. It was difficult enough for Abby and Libby trying to get justice for these two young girls and solving the case. It took more than 5 years to arrest and charge someone who, like, on the second day of the investigation, they knew was there, and they never followed up on it. It's unreal. But now Richard Allen has been charged, and his trial, he's asking for a speedy trial. He wants his trial, claiming his innocence, saying it's the Odinists that did it. He's getting his speedy trial. May 13th, it will begin. Obviously, we'll be covering it. But what about the contempt hearing for his lawyers who've been reinstated? Well, is that going to happen beforehand? Take a look up on the screen. Those attorneys now are saying the prosecutor needs to recuse himself from the contempt proceedings if they felt that this is unreal. What they're saying is that they waited and waited and waited. This is for conduct that took place before, and now they're saying that the prosecutor should be recused from this. Who else do they want recused from the contempt hearing? The judge. The court previously not only criticized the same defense attorneys for the same conduct now alleged by the state to be contemptuous, it also coerced them into withdrawing their representation of Mr. Allen for that conduct. The court cannot appear to be neutral and detached arbiter of the state's contempt allegations, and accordingly, the court should recuse itself from all of this. In the meantime, the defense has also asked for all of this just to be stayed until after the trial. This is just a distraction for everyone from preparation for a trial now 61 days away. It is also a disservice to the families involved. In short, the court and the attorneys need to get back to the critical issues to stop the diversionary filings. We have a trial. It's beginning on May 13th, but we've got a hearing on these headed charges and contempt claim on March 18th. What's going on in Indiana? Let's bring back in our think tank. What is this?
It's predictably unpredictable. It's confusing to me. It's confusing to the court. But why not? Why wouldn't the judge recuse herself and let another judge hear it? Easy.
Do we really need to take care of this contempt hearing before this trial?
Unless the punishment for contempt is you cannot represent this defendant, no. Because if they're just going to be sanctioned and the lawyer's going to be slapped with a fine or pay some fees, no, do that later. It's a distraction.
Can't you lock someone up for contempt?
You can. Yeah, we can do that later too.
So what happens if they have this contempt hearing before the trial and they're preparing for this trial and they put the lawyers in jail for a few days?
Okay, some diehard defense lawyers have to experience this every once in a while, and you purge the contempt by paying a fine and you get out. So it happens. But no, this can wait till later. I find it highly suspicious that a higher court has said, Judge, you need to recuse yourself. The judge says no and is calling in the defense again to criticize them when she should probably just hand it off to somebody else and proceed with trial.
Do it now. Get the contempt over with, because when and if he goes to trial, and if he is convicted, not the Odinist, but him, then he has another grounds for appeal because his attorneys were ineffective, because they couldn't be effective. They were so fearful of what was going to happen on that contempt. Get it done. Get it over with. Put it behind you.
It's so complicated right now. So as we head towards this trial, which is going to happen May 13th, do you expect the defense, the original attorneys back on, to go full pedal to the metal with the Odinist defense here? That it was a ritualistic killing, and we know exactly who is responsible because they pointed fingers at specific people.
Absolutely. I am obsessed with this case and cannot wait, and I'm so glad that they are invoking speedy trial, which strategically is genius. I've done it in a few trials, and they're basically saying to the state, get ready, we're ready. I think that their theory is cohesive. I think they have credible, cogent evidence. It's going to be shocking. I think it is entirely based on Odinistic ritual, which I really didn't know much about, but since the inception of the Richard Allen case, I have learned so much by virtue of his jailers, those working in the sheriff's office, things that were apparently left at the scene, and we only have much more to learn. It's going to be fascinating.
What are we going to see? The way we're looking at Richard Allen, who looked so healthy when he was first arrested, and now he's emaciated. Will he live long enough to see his trial?
You want a speedy trial when the other side doesn't want it, right? That's the biggest, when the judge is putting it off and the prosecution is not pushing it, they don't feel strong enough about their case. That's when you want to go forward.
Well, and that's what confuses me here is this guy told someone that he was there on the bridge that day, right? The times have changed depending upon which affidavit you read, but the bottom line is he should have been fully investigated 5 years ago, and it just kind of sat on the bottom of a stack of paper somewhere. I don't understand that. It's very confusing to me, but this trial is happening, and we will be covering it. All right, folks, it is time to fasten your seatbelts. Up next.
In tonight's Tank Takes, a woman being charged with feeding the homeless can't get a trial because they can't find 12 people willing to convict her, even if they believe she's guilty. So tonight we're wondering, what now?
The first parents in America to be charged in a mass school shooting.
Involuntary manslaughter and 4 counts of it.
The gun recovered from the shooter was the same gun that was purchased by his father.
Jennifer was found guilty.
Who is responsible for storing the gun?
Now the school shooter's father is set to stand trial.
My husband is.
The school shooter dad trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time for tonight's Tank Takes, where we take a look at the world of crime and justice, and we have all these stories that they don't fit in the rest of the show, but it's like a perfect fit right here at the end. So let's begin with our first one. I'm calling this one Jury Nullification, and you may remember this story. There was a woman who, in Texas, who apparently was feeding the homeless outside of a library, and then got arrested and charged, and now they want to have a trial for her. But they're having a difficult time picking a trial because all of the prospective jurors say, yeah, even if she was guilty, I would have a hard time finding her guilty at trial because she's charged with feeding homeless folks down there. So with all this in mind, like, if you can't get a jury and you can't find 12 people who say they could potentially find her guilty if they believe she was actually guilty of what she's charged with, what now? What now?
Dismiss.
What now, my love? Are you really kidding me? We can pre-sentence her to feeding the homeless so that she can be pre-punished before she goes to the trial she'll never have.
A couple of really important things. First of all, people think prosecutors represent victims. They don't. They represent the people, the state, the government. When the people have shown you they don't want this prosecution, respect the people that you represent. Also, juries should nullify. We're not allowed to argue this ever in court. We're prohibited.
Explain what that is.
If you don't like the law, it doesn't matter about the trial. It doesn't matter about the evidence. You can go back there and say not guilty. Misdemeanor marijuana, you think it should be legal? It doesn't matter.
Opinion. That is not the law.
That's not the law.
You can do that. There is no consequence for jurors who do that.
You know what? This is how you find the world's best prosecutor, because when you're sitting in that prosecutor's office and you've been there, you know, we've all been there, here's a case that you can't win. The prosecutor says, if that's the law and this lady violated the law, you've got your best, you know, that's what you got to do.
No, you don't. You do not. When I was a prosecutor, if I thought the case should not happen, it did not happen.
If you disagree with the law?
Yeah, absolutely. If I thought the person was innocent, prosecutor, he or she has discretion, and unless it's a murder, a kidnapping, a rape, something, a bank robbery, you sometimes...
Shoplifting? You don't prosecute a shoplifting?
It depends, not necessarily.
A homeless person
depends.
stealing toiletries or food?
Yeah.
Who
See,
cares?
we're the food people.
Here we are, back to the homeless.
The trucks, food trucks.
So no prosecution. So what's actually going to happen here, though?
Dismiss!
You think it will be?
I would hope so. It's a waste of resources.
I understand what you believe should happen, but what will happen?
What should happen is what will happen.
All right, we'll get to the next
will
one.
of the people. Will
Next
be what will
story.
happen.
Call this one Punchline Drunk. You got to take a look at this video. So the guy, it's a DUI. The guy who's arrested for DUI makes a little joke. Let's take a look.
So why are we retesting and retesting and retesting?
It's a different exercise.
It's a different exercise, sir.
It's a different exercise, sir.
Back up a little bit. Yeah.
It's a different exercise, okay? You don't have to go that far. But it's a different exercise, and we're just trying to explain it to you. Do you want more problems?
I'm just messing with y'all. Stop it.
Now's not the time for jokes. Okay.
What can I do for y'all?
Are you gonna do the last exercise?
How's it go?
Feet together. Feet
Do you want me
together.
to explain the instructions to you?
Hands down by your side. Have them explain these instructions again, okay?
Why didn't police laugh?
Because it's funny right here. Looking at it in hindsight, it's funny. But every police officer knows somebody who's been shot by somebody that didn't behave and didn't follow their instructions.
That's right.
And that's
do
you know
that. All right, final story, calling this one Divorce King. Apparently, a person seeking a divorce met with the defendant at Burger King and gave him a bunch of money to help get his divorce. He wasn't actually a paralegal. He wasn't a divorce attorney. And she got $6,300 worth of
Whoppers.
Yeah, of Whoppers. Anyway, there's his mugshot. So my question is, here's the question. Whopper or Big Mac tonight?
You know what? Every Wednesday night, on the normal Wednesday, before dinner, it is dinner, I have a Whopper whole.
Well, I've got to ask Randy first, though. When you see your clients, is it at McDonald's or Burger King?
I asked him, do you want fries with that divorce?
All right, there you go. What do you going? No, you got to pick Whopper or Big Mac.
Oh, man, I'm going for the fries.
I'm doing the Whopper, man.
Whopper.
I don't do any consultation.
Molly will have the Big Mac. Thank you, Randy Kessler, Molly Farmer, Daryl Cohen. Fantastic. All right, before we go tonight, folks, take a look at your screens. We have a missing child. Take a close look. There we go. This is Whitney Hatfield, 16 years old, missing out of South Salem, Ohio. If you see her, pick up the phone, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or the Ross County Sheriff's Office in Ohio. Let's see if we get Whitney to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.